I'm recording for people who can't be here but wanted to attend. I'll post it somewhere later so people can watch it. If you have any questions as we go, there's not too many of us here, so feel free to jump in, ask a question whenever you need to. So I'm going to cover a couple of topics. Oh, there's a tickety. First, I'm going to start with like the basic editor and just run through, and I'm not going to spend too long on it. Maybe just point out some things you didn't notice or know about the default editor. Then I'm going to move on to essential housing tools and run through its features. It does a lot of stuff, so that might take a little while. I've got blocks and stuff set out here so I can show you some examples of how to use EHT and some other things. Then I'll show off some other useful housing add-ons like Magic Carpet and Furniture Catalog very briefly, and then we can talk about some tricks and different things, and you guys can ask any questions that you might have.
Don't forget craft store.
I don't use Craft Store. Yeah, I've never installed that one. I'm not even sure what it does.
Ooh,
It lists everything that you can
make.
collect. So every furniture,
Yeah.
no, not just make anything you can collect, and it tells you what's available, even if you haven't collected it.
Yeah,
So it's great for figuring out furnishing
furniture
plans.
furniture catalog does that. Shows you
Oh, and you have pictures too. You don't get pictures with the craft store,
yeah.
like the little pictures.
Well, it also shows you, recipes for everything. It's very handy.
Yeah, craft store does all that too. That's interesting though.
Hmm.
I'll have to try it out. Take a look at it.
Oh, there's Panda. If you guys haven't joined the stream, join on in. I'm sharing my screen so I can show the tools as we go. Okay, let's get
Can't
started.
log in right now.
Oh, what's that?
I can't get in game right now, so I'll just watch the stream if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. No
Yeah,
problem.
some of us can't be in
Thanks.
game and watch, so it's cool.
Okay, let's start with the default editor. I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with it. If you're not, let's just run through it real quick. So, F5 to open the housing editor. All right, once you're in it, you've got a few options. You'll see down on my on my screen that there are some extra options that are there from I've already got essential housing tools turned on, so it adds some extra options. I'll go over those later. Let's just start with browse real quick here. So browse is how you'll place anything in your house. You have four tabs: place, purchase, retrieve, and settings. I'm going to go to settings real quick just to show the options here. They're pretty straightforward. So this is where you would make a house your primary residence if you don't have one yet. Like this is currently my primary residence, so I can't click it. Um, Default visitor access, set your like permissions level for people who are in your house right now. Anybody can visit my house because it's set to visitor and they can interact with the things in it. You could do limited visitor, which just makes it so people can't turn your lights on and off or interact with things. And then there's decorator, which would let anybody who comes in your house move your furnishings around and do whatever they wanted. Um, so I'm actually going to set it to decorator right now. If you guys, while you're following around, I just asked don't move around the furnishings on the platforms over there, but feel free to play with the plates and blocks around as we're doing if you want to try out anything that you see me do. Um, let's see, visitors. Okay, so if you wanted to add some permissions, like if you wanted to give someone decorator position in your house, like you can see Rakonga has decorator permissions here since she does the home goods auction decorating. You can just add a player by name, give them their specific permissions. Watch out for this apply to all houses button. It should be off by default, but it isn't. So be careful you don't give one person permissions to edit all of your houses. Um, Watch out for that. You you could also add people to your ban list that you don't want in here. I don't know why you would need to do that. Guild visitors, like say if you didn't want your house to be open to everyone, you could set no access and then just add your guilds here. Just start typing a guild name and it'll auto complete. and then you can apply visitor or whatever. It's pretty basic. Yeah, that's basically it for settings. You can also, if you wanted to just load permissions from another house, you already had like a bunch of decorators set up. Like I could import my settings from the Cold Harbor house where the whole home furnishings decorating team has permissions. I could just add them easily by just importing that particular house's permissions. That's kind of helpful. All right, let's go to place real quick. You'll see there's some extra filters up here that EHT adds, which is really nice. So for instance, I use this one all the time, show only items in your inventory. Very, very useful. So you can see all I've got in my inventory are a couple of floors at the moment.
Huh, I never knew that.
Yeah,
Oh,
really
got it.
helpful. You can also just see things in your bank, just things in your storage chests, which is way too many furnishings for me. Also, um, yeah, like it'll show only bound items or unbound items if you want optionally. And I think you can mix and match these. Yeah, like show only bound items in my bag. This is very useful, I find. I'm mostly just using things that are in my bag because I have too many available furnishings, like in storage places. Um, Filter if you wanted something by name, very, very handy if you know what you're looking for. Like if I was looking for some Alanor trees. You can also sort by themes up here, which is handy. Like if you're doing an orc themed house, you could just pick orc and see what you've got here. Okay, so once you click on an item, it's gonna bring you to preview where you can hit E and place things. That's how you get things in your house. If you change your mind, you can always just hit X to cancel or R to go back. You can also, if you know exactly what you want, you can just right-click the item and place it without previewing it, which is handy. All right. Let's see.
Those are really good for skull crushers.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not sure why that must be like a thing that's in home goods or home furnishings storage chest or something. I'm not sure why that's randomly available to me. Okay. So once you've placed an item in your house, let me just take something random. I'm gonna add this spire over here. So once you're in place mode, you've got a couple of different options. You can always just put it away with R or X. Once you've got it out, you've got rotation options with your button keys, which are pretty good. If you're going to rotate this way, there's one thing to know is that once you, so when you use the rotation items options, when you just are placing an item for the first time, it's like locked in orientation, right? So if you rotate with like 5 or 6 where you're tipping an item, it rotates nicely at like right on its axis. Now, if I go ahead and place this item and then I pick it up again and I try and use those rotations, it's based on like my orientation to the item. So now when I'm rotating it, it's not on its axis, it's like based on where I am. So like if you want to tilt something to the side,
Oh
it's
my
best.
god.
What's that?
Makes sense.
Yeah, so
He's
Makes
just
sense.
realizing this now.
if you want to rotate an item like that, it's best you do it when you're first placing it, so it remains on its axis basically. Though there are other ways around that, like you've already placed something, you can use the precision editor. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so when you're placing an item, you've also got cursor mode, which I don't find super helpful, but so cursor mode basically gives you the same rotation item options. You can mouse over these little tumblers here in the middle, like say to rotate one way or another. And it's just like those other rotation item options, except it's smoother. You get more steps in between. So if you wanted to do a little tilt, you can do it. I don't use this a ton. I also find it really confusing that there's no button to like finish. You actually just have to move your character to get the rest to like get out of that mode for some reason. Another thing here, surface drag. All right, so you'll notice like whenever I'm moving it, it just stays perfectly on the ground. Um, That's because surface drag is turned on. If you turn it off, you're basically turning clipping off. So now you can sink things into the ground. It'll just float in the sky if you want to. You can clip it into other objects, whereas if I turn surface drag on, it'll sit on top of other objects. That's very useful sometimes. Sometimes the editor doesn't know where the bottom of an object is, or it doesn't know where the floor height really is at the moment, and it changes all the time. Sometimes you'll set an item down and it's like floating in the air a little. So if you turn surface drag off, you can make sure things are actually sitting on the ground and not floating in the air. Okay. Once you've got an item selected, you'll notice you can use your mouse wheel to like push and pull items when you've got surface drag turned off. You can also use right click to align items like to the ground if I wanted to make it sit on the ground, or I could put it up against a wall. I'm gonna cancel that for the moment. Also, other things to know here. Undo, if you place something or you move something and you want to undo it, just hit Z. Like I just put it back in my bag. You get it Y to redo. Very useful to know. You can see the history on the right side, which goes back like hundreds of steps, I think, or it's at least 100 steps. You'll probably have more history than you need. Just be aware that if you leave your house, your history gets wiped out. Or if you log out, your history is only temporary when you're in your house. Okay. Thing I didn't cover is the other tabs in here. Let's real quick. I'll do so purchase is just like place, except you're buying everything in here. Only nice thing to know in here is like if you wanted to gift someone something, you can do that from here. A particular furnishing, like you won't find these in the Crown store. You have to buy them from the editor or gift them from the editor. Really the only thing that's useful for. There's some cool stuff in here, but it's also expensive. Retrieve tab, very useful. Say you placed an item, like I placed this spire, and for some reason I placed it under the ground and I just lost it. If you just can't see an item or you can't find an item, you can go to the retrieve tab. If you want to just search for it, like a spire. Now you can just right click on it to put it away. Now it's back in my bag. Or I'm just going to undo that for a second. You can also just click on it and then modify, and now it's back in front of you in your field of view. But you'll notice it still keeps its orientation. It's a little rotated off of me, so like it's not the same as placing it originally necessarily. But yes, retrieve, very useful if you just can't find something in your house. EHT also has some interesting tools to retrieve stuff, and I'll get to that in a minute. So once you've got items in your house, you want to move them around. Sent just playing around with plates. Okay, so you've got a couple options here. So you notice when you mouse over an object, you'll get edit. If you click, you can also hit E to edit at the same time. You get precision edit and link. We'll do groups in a second here. Okay, so if you're just going to edit an item, once you've got it, it's like having your default tools again. Just like when you're replacing it the first time. The other option is the precision editor, which is super handy. So important things to know here are we'll switch between rotate and move. Then you still have cursor mode in this option where you can instead like manually click these arrows to move things around. I'm not sure why it didn't work there. Anyway, I don't really use that option because you just have the key. It does the same thing as the keys. So units T changes your units 1, 10, 100, for depending on how far you need to move things. One centimeter being if you need to make really precise movements to line things up. You can also do something like this. Like if I set this on the wall and it's like off kilter, if you use the precision editor and you hit straighten on an object, you'll notice it like orients it. It like automatically fix the tilt of the item. that works in like different ways too. So you can kind of like, if something got a little cockeyed, you can use straighten to fix it. Just gonna put this back. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions at any point here. So for rotate, what's nice about the precision tools is they always stay on axis. Like it's always perfectly on the axis of the item, so you're always just sliding in predictable directions when you're moving things. And when you do rotate, so rotate your units are half a degree, no, 0.05 degrees, which is very, very small. Like for generally, I'd never use that when it's extremely small. You can get by with 1 or 15. 15 is really handy if you want to, like, say, rotate something like 90 degrees. You just do 6 steps and you've rotated 90 degrees. And it's, perfectly on axis. I'm just going to hit X to cancel.
Every time I see scent, it looks different.
Yep.
Now it's the triangle.
It's a nice house. It's pretty good.
Beautiful.
I'm like impressed that she's managing to do that while like remaining sitting. I'm not sure how you're doing that exactly. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Groups. That's another useful feature here. So you'll see link is the right click here. Once you right click, you can now create a group. I'm gonna cancel here if so. This is handy if you have like you've put together say a table with a bunch of stuff on it and you want to link them all together. You can just click the table, click the items on it, and now when you move the table, you move everything. Now you can also create multiple layers of groups. Like I could link together all the items on this table and make a group, and then I can link that to the table, and then I can take this table and link it to this one. So there's now all these different layers of groups here. I don't think there's like any limit to how many layers of groups you can have. Pretty useful for keeping stuff stuck together. You can also use EHT to do groups. One thing to know is that EHT groups and default editor groups do not play nicely together. You should never try and operate on something in EHT that has like default editor groups. Really weird things will happen. So like if you want to make a group out of the same table in EHT, you'd first want to just get rid of your existing groups, which is pretty easy. Like if I wanted to just dissolve this group, all I got to do is right click on it, look away. If you see it down at the bottom, it says unlink all children. Just hit X. And then hit R to confirm. So now that group has been destroyed. These other ones are still over here. I'm just gonna get rid of them real quick. Yeah, there we go. Okay, all the groups are gone. Let's see. The only other real feature of the default editor is they added pathing. I don't know how much people have played around with pathing before. Let me just add a boom and retrieve. Let me just set down a couple things here. Let me get a house guest. Who should I pick? We'll give Mike out here. Let's set him down and I'll get a pet. How about a flying pet?
That.
My moth. How about a nice moth? So once you've placed something that can walk on a path, which is actually like house guests or mounts or pets, basically. Mouse over, you'll notice you've got Q option to create a path. Once you do that, now you're in nodes. The nodes are basically just set where the character is going to walk, and the arrow is where they're going to be facing when they get to that point. We also notice you can hit U to adjust the speed that they move, and then I for wait time. All right, so if I just wanted to, I'm just going to walk around a little.
Now there actually is a limit too on how many like how far, like how many of those you can place. Too.
Yeah, and so you'll notice right next to my cursor where it says confirm, it now says 18. If I add another one, it's going to say 17. That's how many nodes you have remaining, which is usually plenty, honestly. Like, I forget how many nodes it is, but it seems to be plenty of nodes. Okay, so once you've placed however many you want, you can just hit R to finish. Now, if I exit the editor, Mike's just going to be walking along. You can mess with the options here. So if you want to edit your path, just mouse over it and hit Q to edit. Now you can edit nodes. You can edit the wait time or the speed. I'm gonna have him walk, and then let's just have him like go for a jog. And maybe we'll have him start running. And go for a sprint.
He's gonna do our exercising for us.
Yeah, basically. And then, and I'll just have him like slow down. Okay. So now if I you can just hit R again to like, oh, actually you hit Q again to confirm. So now everything's saved. Now if I like exit again, he's gonna start walking. And you'll see he'll start running. Okay, so Antigone asks if there's a way to make their movement more natural. Without a million nodes, not really that I can think of. So see, Mike is running back now. That's like the way the default paths work. They walk one direction and then walk back along the line in the same way. So like the pathing is limited. I don't know. For characters, I think they do okay in terms of like how they move. It's like you can't move any. You can't. Maybe one day they'll add like curved paths instead of just straight paths to use. But yeah, if you want them to be more smooth, you kind of just have to use more nodes. Okay, other settings here. There's also wait time. So wait time, if you added that, would be how long they'll wait at that node before they move on, which is kind of nice if you've got like a merchant or something that's like has their own stall and you just have them walk around and look at something and stand there for a minute and then move off to some other place. But let's look at path settings real quick. Once you're in path edit mode, you can hit R to open path settings. There's a few settings here. This one's useful if you want to change. If you don't want to redo your path or want to change what's walking on it, you don't have to delete it and start over. You can just hit change object here, and I can pick a different house guest.
Hello there.
And now she's walking on the path instead. That will automatically like finish your editing when you do that. So you have to open the settings again. If you just wanted to like save your path but not have your house guests walk around or your pet or whatever it is, you can just set pathing to off here and they'll just stand still and you can turn it back on again later. Conform to the ground. Okay, so you can also set nodes like up in the air. Conform to the ground would mean if you set it up in the air, like if I took this one node and I just set it up in the air, if you turn, so with conform to the ground on, if I just confirm here, oh, I must have pathing turned off. My bad. So if you have conform to the ground on, like regardless of where you stuck the node, she's just going to stick to the ground, which in most cases is what you want. Otherwise, you'll get some really weird results. Like if I change it now to off and start over, she's just going to walk into the sky.
She's a witch.
She's a witch. You might want that like if you had some like stairway or something like here, or like something you had built like a bridge. You might get weird results letting them walk over it on their own, whereas like if you have them just float right above it a little, it might look more natural. But in general, you really only want to turn that off for like flying pets, like this moth here. And then there's one more option here, and that's just the pathing type. So ping pong is the default, which means the house guest will just walk along the line and then walk back. You can switch to loop. When you do that, it's going to connect your last node and your first node. So now they walk in a circle, essentially. Also useful. Um, did someone get inactivity kicked? Maybe. So there's one other setting here, random, and I'll show you that with my little moth here. Actually, let's. So I've used this one in a couple of my houses where I have like moths or butterflies flying around. Like insects kind of just tend to fly all over the place and be really weird. Like they don't have any. There's no rhyme or reason to their movement really. So I'm gonna create a path, and I'm just gonna like have it fly around. I'm gonna turn surface drag off, and I'm just gonna stick some nodes all in random places, maybe around the lights. Okay. Now, once I've got it placed, this is where like ping pong works out kind of nice. So you could set different um, you get a nice effect if you set different like random wait times, short wait times, and different speeds. But I'm just going to set this to random. So now when it starts moving, it's just gonna, from its start point, it's just gonna pick a random node to go to, and then from that one, it'll just pick another random node to go to. So it gets a much more like unpredictable kind of movement, which works out nicely for things like pets. There's one thing I forgot here. I forgot to turn off conform to ground. So now it can just float in the air as it needs to. Makes for kind of a nice effect. I have the same thing with a goat in one of my yards, just like a bunch of points, and it just randomly walks around from one point to another, grazing, you know? Um, that is a pretty nice effect. Any questions about pathing or anything else in the default editor?
So if you have a conform to ground and you've got fixed elements like fixed stairs, they will automatically climb them, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Um, it can look a little funny. Let me drop one here. I'll give you an example. We got this little platform here that's kind of like stairs, but you can walk up it. Let's see what it looks like when we stick a house guest here and make him walk up it. Okay. And we'll walk back down. You see, it's like they do pretty well. Like it's not super smooth. If it's real stairs, it looks a little better. If it's like a ramp of any kind, like walking up and down it, they actually do pretty decent. Like pretty decently animated walking up and down stairs or ramps. And yeah, you don't have to like add extra nodes or anything like that. It'll just take care of it for you. It's pretty good as long as you have conform to ground on.
Every time I see Sun's house,
it's just getting bigger.
it cracks me up.
Okay, so let's get on to essential housing tools. I think I've covered everything in the basic editor. There's not a ton to it, but you can still do a lot with it. Okay. Housing tools. It's not exactly intuitive. It's got a lot going on. So we'll get started here. You should, if you have it installed, have this automatically show up down here. So there are a few different options: effects, tools, bank and storage. So this one's kind of useful if you're in your house and you don't have bank or storage laid out, or they're not near you. You can just press this and it will automatically just summon your chests and your assistants right to you. And then you can just press it again to put them away, or put them back wherever they were in this case.
That's cool.
Yep. Housing hub, and then ultimately your shortcuts and options, which actually is this. This is the default thing that will pop up when you mouse over it. So I'm going to run through this real quick. So these shortcuts, all of these are accessible in other spots, and I'll cover what they do more in depth through the tools menu. These are like clipboard. I would find pretty confusing. I'll cover the clipboard in more detail. It would be I wouldn't suggest using it from here. Really, the options here are what are useful. So one thing to know here is so once you start moving, you've now lost your cursor, right? So if you want to click on that EHT button, you can keybind it, or you can hit the period button. Starts cursor mode. So now I'm not moving, I'm moving my cursor, and that allows me to mouse over things. You'll find you need to use that a lot to interact with EHT. The windows will become unclickable if you start moving, so you'll need cursor mode a lot. So let's start here. Grid lines, this is actually like quite useful. All right, so I'm going to turn these on. You'll see as soon as I do, it sticks a grid on the ground, and the grid moves with me. Now, this is just horizontal is just grid on the ground. You can also do vertical. It'll do if you were building up in the sky, or say you were like wanted to align things on a wall, you could stick this grid up and help you to align things. I don't generally use the vertical one, but it's there if you need it. There's also the lock option here, means that wherever you are, the grid's just going to stay in that one spot instead of following you around, which is pretty useful if you're only just working in a small area. Then I'm going to unlock this. And then there's adjust, like say your grid for some reason didn't line up with like say the room you're working in, or like right now the grid doesn't line up with these blocks. If you do adjust, you can rotate the grid. I think I went the long way, but anyway. Yep, there we go. You can also adjust the size of the grid. I'm going to close for now. Okay, so now the grid is more aligned with what the blocks I've got laid out here. So here's the really nice feature of the grid. You get this snap to grid option. I don't generally use like horizontal or vertical. I just turn on rotation, right? So this is how I laid out all the like crafting stations in the guild house, right? So now if I pick this block up and I go to lay it down, it doesn't have to be perfect, but when I lay it down, EHT, oh, of course you're gonna do that. Okay. When I drop it, EHT is going to automatically, sometimes EHT will just like drop the ball. If you find that, just exit the editor and open it again. But so now when I dropped it here, and EHT automatically rotated it to line up perfectly with the grid. So if you're building something like you wanted nice perpendicular walls or something, you can just get EHT to do the hard work for you of lining everything up. Or say if you were building a wall and you needed to align a small section and a big section, you can just snap them right onto the same spot in the grid.
I think it's worth pointing out that the grid itself can't be rotated.
What do you mean?
Or can it?
No, it can. I just I demonstrated that. Yeah, you can. Yep, you can adjust the grid. So if you wanted it at a different angle or something, you can rotate it and move it, which I did actually. So now these walls are like are basically at the same exact orientation. You might need to line them up, but you don't have to worry about them being like not aligning at the edge because they're all perfectly on the same grid. So this is pretty handy if you were say building like some custom shelves or something and you just really need things to line up easily. The grid is pretty handy.
Can you not get them to join up?
Oh yeah. So I mean, in this case, you could. So here's another thing that's handy. It's very handy when you're decorating to set a key to toggle walk. Right, it becomes much easier to move things when you
Caps
move
lock.
slowly. Yep, caps. And then you can get it nice and close. Get as close as you can and set it down. Okay, now you can just take the precision editor with F and just do the rest of the like fine point adjustment here. And
No
slide them
pressure, but
together.
we're all watching you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so I thought it might just have a snap to lock or something. Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. Well, okay, so there you can do that actually. You can do that with EHT. You can force them to align to each other. I'll get to that in a second. You can actually do that with EHT. Just make them like snap to each other. Okay. Other options here. Selection. So I'm gonna turn the grid off for right now. Selection. I like to turn on checks, and then there's also box here, so this will make more sense in a second. Let me bring up the tools window here. So the basic, if you want to do anything in EHT, the first thing you need is a selection, and a selection is like a group in the default editor. So you just mouse over an object and just hit G, and you'll see it's got a floating check mark on it. That's what this option is. Which I find very helpful to see. It makes it easier to see what you've got in your group and what isn't. Box puts like a floating box around everything that you've got selected. So as I like add things, it'll show you the area things selected are in. I don't find that one as helpful personally, but it's there. But I do like to leave checks on. Okay, so the select window here. So like I was saying, the first thing you need to do is if you want to do anything with EHT, is to make some kind of selection. All right, and a selection is a group of objects and also their information about where they are in your house. So it's not just the object, it's the object and its position and its orientation information, right? So once I've selected these blocks, right, we can save these. You can save any selection that you want here. I'm just gonna call these light blocks. Just type in a name. Oh, see my caps locks on. Doesn't matter. And I'll just save this. Okay. So now I can, if you wanted to make a new selection, you can do clear new, right? If I want to go back to that, here's my list of saved selections here. I can just hit light blocks and everything's back. So once you've saved a selection, you've got like, it's got this really nice feature where if you move something, like if I just took these blocks and just moved them randomly all over the place, and then once you've saved a selection, EHT remembers everything about it. If you do revert to last save up here, it'll ask you to confirm, and it'll just stick everything right back where it was, which is pretty handy if you're like working on making some edits and you mess something up and you just want to go back to where you started. Now, if you make some edit like this and then you hit save, now that becomes the new like last save. If you revert it again, it would be in this configuration instead of the last one. And then I just put it back where it was and save. Okay, so the selection mode here is basically about how you select things. There's a few different ways in here. Some of them work better than others. Like there's one here, connected items, which sounds nice. So it should, in theory, select things that are like touching each other. It's it doesn't work great in practice. Like you would think if I clicked this, if I hit G on this pie dish here, that it would pick everything on the table, which it does. But for some reason, it also just gets a million other things. I don't know why. Your results may vary. Um, let's see. Um, Linked relatives is if like you have a group of items you can. So if I had an EHT group here and I picked the pie dish that the group was in, it would select all the items in the default editor group. But I won't recommend you do that because, like I said, those groups don't play nice together. So I wouldn't recommend using that. There is the two modes that I use most times are single item and radius. Radius is pretty cool. Okay, so if I wanted to select and make a group of everything that's on this table, I can pick the pie dish and just you hit G to add an item to the group, right? So I'm gonna hit G. It's gonna pop up this wheel here, right? So you use your mouse to decide the size of the radius, and then I just hit G again, and it just selects everything that was in the bubble, which is pretty nice. Again, feel free to jump in with questions if you have any. There is also an option. So you've got radius same as target. Now, say if I picked this block here and I made a big radius, it's got some other types of objects in it. Whoops, I hit the wrong key. And I hit G again. It only picks just the rough blocks. It didn't pick any of these other objects because they're not the same as the one that I started with. All right. You can also do, there's some other ones down here, like you can pick all your crafting stations, all your effects, which we'll get to later. You can also just select every item in the house if you wanted to. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you could. But in my experience, single item and radius are the most useful. I'm going to clear my selection. Actually, let's go back over here for 1 second. I'm going to remake this group. Here's an interesting feature. Down here in the corner is a link, right? This means right now nothing's linked, meaning the items in here, you can move them around individually. If you turn this link on, now if I pick this table up, say if I wanted to move this, if I just move this table and I pick it up and I stick it in some other spot, EHT is just going to automatically move everything else with it to exactly where it was. Kind of like you can do with the default groups in the editor. Just pick everything up and move it all at once. As long as you have it linked. If you unlink, then you can move any individual item you want without moving the other ones. This is a decent time to show the undo tab. This isn't very complicated. Down at the end, you can also bind undo to a key. You'll see it's here. I don't have it bound at the moment. I'm just going to step back. I'm going to hit undo. And it will send all of those items back to where they were. So it can undo operations you did on whole groups of items, which is very handy to know. There's not really anything else here. You can redo, you can clear your whole history if you wanted to. And then we'll look at backups later. Okay, so once you've got a selection here, There is also another. Let me. You see view here. So there's selected items, and then there's also two other options here. These are different ways to select items or to find items that you're looking for. So you can do all items A to Z. Okay, so this is now showing every item in this house. It's 477 things. It's a lot of things. If you were looking for a particular thing, like you couldn't find it, like I didn't know where my ethereal well was, you can right click to identify. Right now you see up on my compass, there's a marker. And if we look over here, there's this big marker that's flashing that'll tell us exactly where the ethereal well is if you were looking for something in your house. Kind of like retrieve, but you don't have to move it. Unfortunately, that marker will just stick around until you leave the housing editor for a second. No, not you. Okay. That's really the only feature of this. So you can, from here, you could add things to your selection, but there's so many things I don't find it particularly useful. You can also do by distance, so it would just be ordered by what's closest to you instead of alphabetically. I generally just always leave this on selected items. There's another drop down here that has a few options here. So this is how you could snap things together like Ever was mentioning about. So if I took the wall here, get a new selection, and I'm just going to select this wall. Yeah. Get back to single item. That's where, okay, change these items has tons of different options. Like the top one here is actually pretty useful, bring to me. You can copy and paste things, and sometimes when you copy and paste selections, they will be pasted in a weird spot, like off the map, basically like outside the bounds of your house. If you use bring to me, like right now, oh, I'm stuck inside of a wall.
I mean, it brought it to you.
It did. It brought it to me. Normally, a selection has more items in it, so you know, you won't end up in that position. Like if I pick light blocks here and I do change these items, bring to me, they'll just be around me instead. And then I can always just undo to put them back where they were.
Nice house set.
Yeah, man, this house just keeps getting fancier. Who's giving the lesson here? Okay, so let me get a new selection.
So actually, when you use the bring to me function on it, it centers whatever you've selected around you.
Yep, that's that exactly. So there, yeah, like I said, there's this weird thing, and I'm going to show this feature later, that copy and paste, which is really great. But sometimes the paste puts things in weird spots, which is where
Mine always goes underground.
Yeah.
When I paste.
Yeah, like it goes underground, or it sticks it out of bounds, or it does something weird. You won't even, you'll paste and then it will look like nothing's there, but the selection will be there, and that's where bring to me comes in handy. So you can get it to a spot where you are and where you want it to be. Let me reselect this. Okay, there are other options here, align and flipping options. Like, okay, you flip on the x-axis, which is just going to rotate 90 degrees. I've just rotated it around. Flip on the y-axis, right? Flipping it upside down, essentially. You can also, okay, so orient each item with target's orientation, right? So that's orientation specifically means rotation information, not position, right? So if I did this and then I just click on this, let me see, this we'll use this plate here because it's at an angle. You see, it automatically picks up the same orientation of this plate. So you could do this. That's that same thing with this wall. If you wanted to align these two walls, you just do orient with target's orientation, and then click this wall, and now they're lined back up again. They're on the same plane instead of using the grid. And then let's see, align each item with target's x-axis. I think that will do it. So what it actually did was stuck it inside the wall, like in the middle. Let me put that back where it was. There's so many of these options. So
I never even knew those options were there.
yeah, there's so many different ones. I mean, including some like really weird ones that I don't know why you would ever use them. Okay, I'm gonna use level for a second. You'll notice this wall is taller than this one. Now they're the same height. Level brings them to the same spot, and then there is one in here that should snap them together. Here's a weird one. Center group between two targets. All right, now if I click here and I click this block over here, it's gonna stick it right in the middle between those two objects. That's another one that's like would be useful if you were like measuring things. You want to put something exactly in the middle between two walls. You could stick up paintings and then stick something directly in the middle of them. I may never get to the one that will snap them together. I don't use these a ton either.
Is it based on the base of the objects?
What do you?
As opposed to being, if you wanted to stack something on top, like the two columns that you've got.
Oh yeah, there's actually an option there right for that, right? Yeah, so like if I took, let me put these in the group, take these out, and then there's an option here, stack in a pile. Actually, they're right on top of each other. So that's now two items in the exact same position if you did stack in a pile. There's also stack in two groups for some reason. Some of these are very odd and I don't know when you would ever use them. I don't know where the second one is. Oh, it's over here. If you wanted to make a stack of items, we'll get to that in a minute. There is a way to do that. With the builds feature can do all kinds of crazy stuff like stacking items.
Or you can just look behind you.
Seth's gonna have built like a whole house. What happened to all my metal plates? What are you guys doing?
Like I said, look behind you.
Oh. Someone's playing around with the spiral feature or something. What are you guys doing?
Oh, I want to play.
You guys took too many of my plates. I'm gonna have to steal all of those.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes it is difficult to tell which axis is the axis you actually want. It really is. All right, well now if you were in this position, what you could do is just use the precision editor and just slide it one way or the other, and they'd be basically aligned. Okay, let me move on from that. So anyway, once you've got a selection, there are many options here that will do many different things in terms of like aligning with other things, spacing things, Again, you can also copy items here, though I wouldn't recommend it. Link stuff, again, wouldn't. I don't know about linking things together here. You also do some like ordering. This is more like if you had a warehouse of some kind, this might be useful. Okay. Yep, we'll see you later. Okay. Let me reselect my blocks here. Down at the bottom of the window here, you also, so this tool was how basically you did precision editing before they added the precision editor to the default editor. These are still useful if you've got like a really big group of some kind, or if you're moving around something you've copied or pasted. So there are two different modes here. First of all, there's this compass here. If you'll see if it looks like it's locked like it is here, you're moving by compass directions, right? The other mode is relative. Okay, so this part's a little confusing, but when you're moving the object, it's relative to your character's direction. All right, so I'm facing forward at the blocks right now. So you've got left, right, forward, back. You can rotate up, down, and then pitch and roll if you wanted to do some other rotations. Now, if I move them forward, they're moving forward away from me. One thing to mention is when you're doing an operation in EHT, you'll see this progress bar pop up. If you're moving lots and lots of things, the bar can take a little while to finish. It's always a good idea to let the bar finish before you enter some other command. So you don't want to just be like clicking this. It does queue actions, but you might run into problems. So I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend letting the bar finish before you queue some other action. So anyway, you can see this is now. If it looks like it's moving, just the way you would expect because I'm facing the object. Now, if if I moved at a 45-degree angle and I said move right, now right becomes my right and it's moving diagonally, if you notice. So when you're moving objects in EHT with EHT, you got to be like aware of your orientation to them. Otherwise, things can get very confusing. Now, compass directions, if you set that, it's always fixed. So no matter what direction you're facing, or no matter what or the orientation of the objects you're moving, they'll always move the same direction, which are compass directions based on what house you're in. That can be kind of counterintuitive. I kind of find the relative moving, once you get used to it, to be easier. So one thing to know here is, so the changes slider here is how much you're moving things by, and it tells you the measurements right there. So like 15 right here is actually a really good setting for rotations. Again, matches the precision editor. So you can get things turned to nice 90-degree by just doing 6 turns. Of course, let me just turn these back. I think this does get to 90-degree eventually at the highest. So if I do a turn here, it's just a 90-degree turn. This also adjusts how far things move. So if I move to the right here, it's a long distance now. Whereas if I turn it way down, it gets quite small. So if you want to move around a bunch of objects precisely, it's a pretty good way to do it. Any questions from anybody? Okay, we'll keep moving here. Before we move on to some of the other things here, let's look at there's this little toggle here, lock, unlock. If for some reason you wanted to place things and then just wanted them to never move again, you can lock. Now, if I'm in the editor and I just even try and move this object, just nothing happens. You can't move it. EH2 will prevent you from moving it. As soon as you select it, it deselects it. I'm not sure why you would want that, but it's there. Actually, you know what? I could see this being useful, like if you had built a whole house, right? And then you were decorating things in the house, and you were trying to put a painting on a wall, and you kept clicking the wall on accident and moving the wall instead of the painting. Um, Maybe if you locked all the pieces of your house, it would be useful. But let's take a quick look at copy paste. This is one of my favorite EHT features. Okay, I'm just gonna. I guess I don't need to be so complicated. All right, I'm just gonna make something stupid really quickly here. Whoops. All right, I got my 2 blocks. This could be anything. I got my 2 blocks I've placed on each other, and I want to make a copy of them. New selection here. Now I'm just gonna make a group of them with G. All right, I got 2 blocks selected, and now I want a second copy of it. Now I've done this a bunch of times, like if I built custom shelves, or I have this nice forge I built that I put in multiple houses. I've got 2 blocks just like that over here. I'm just gonna pick them up. All right, now if I go to copy paste here, I've already got something on my clipboard. Let me just clear this here. There are a couple options here. So the top here is copy. All right. If you just do copy selection, which I'm going to do right now. All right, it's got the 2 blocks there. I don't have to do anything else here except now you can paste from house items or you can paste from inventory. Like I could set these 2 blocks down. It usually works out best if you just paste from inventory if you have them in your bag. You can do paste from house items. It'll find the closest house items. But if you already have a copy in your house, EHT can sometimes get confused. Whereas if you put them in your inventory, it's a little more straightforward. So I'm going to do paste from inventory, and I'm going to pick current location. They're going to put them right on top of me. I'm just going to move them up. And you see now I've got 2 identical block patterns here. And you can do this with anything, any number of items, anything you want. You can just make copies, exact copies of it. This has there's another really useful thing about copy paste that I use very often. Say you had 2 tables, like these 2 tables, and you wanted to stick them together end to end and make one long table. And people do this with tables, or you do it with counters, or anything like that. And you just want them to line up perfectly, which can be annoying and like take some time. You could use the grid and the precision editor, or you can use this trick. All right, I'm going to pick this one table up. Get rid of these. I'm going to put this one table in my group. This is using EHT and the precision editor together. So I'm going to copy paste. I'm going to copy selection. I'm going to paste from inventory, and I'm going to pick original location, meaning exactly where the other table is right now. All right, now there's 2 tables in the same exact position, right on top of each other. Now I can use the precision editor. Just hit F. I'm going to go to move. And now I can just slide this table down, and they're perfectly aligned with each other. And now you've got one long table, and everything's perfectly aligned. You can use this for all kinds of things. Put tables together, put counters together, put walls together. That's how I built the whole house in Cold Harbor. Was basically with that method of copying, pasting walls on top of each other and sliding them in like progressively bigger segments. Very handy. Any questions about copy paste?
So just going back to those blocks you just put up there. What if they're actually being used somewhere else? It's not going to tug them for the wall or something, is it?
What was that? So you said they're being used somewhere else?
Yeah, let's say they're part of a wall somewhere, and like you pulled them from the house where you are. Would it actually like drag out from somewhere it's actually being used before?
Um, yeah, I mean it should be fine. I would think. Let's see.
I would
Um,
think you would run into a possibility of it actually pulling something that has been placed in the house already.
yeah. So right. That is possible. Right. So if you
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, sorry.
okay, so that's what I mentioned earlier about picking things up into your inventory. Um, So, like, if you're going to copy and paste, if you have the things in your inventory and you do paste from inventory, it's not going to interfere with anything you have existing in your house. Whereas if you do paste from house items, there is the possibility that it'll pick up the wrong one. Like if you got two of the same item, it could pick up the wrong one. So generally, what it's going to do is it's going to use the one that's closest to you. Um, but if it for some reason can't find it, um, or if that other one it thinks the other one is closer to you, it could. Um, that's why you know what you also can do. There's this option here, paste from selection. Okay, I didn't use this. Let me demonstrate that because this is another way around it. Let me just take this. I'm actually going to leave it selected, right? Um, actually, hold on. Let me do this. I'm going to start with this table again. I'm making a selection with it. I'm going to copy paste. I'm going to copy selection. Okay. Now I'm going to, you can get rid of this selection. It's already on it's already on the clipboard. It's saved. I'm going to select this table. Now if I go to copy paste and I do paste from selection, it's only going to use this item that's in my selection, right? I'm going to do confirm. If you didn't have the right number of items, it would warn you and say you're missing this number of pieces. I'm going to do original location again. So now it used the item in the house, but it used only the one I told it to use. If that makes sense. Now we're in the same
Yeah,
spot.
that's brilliant. That does make sense. Thank you.
So that's a safeguard. So I would say, yeah, if you want to be safe, create a selection with the object that you want to, you want to use, or just keep it in your bag. Pick it up into your inventory, which if you're moving things between houses, you're gonna do anyway. I don't know if you guys want to see a quick demonstration of copy and pasting between houses, because it's a very useful thing. You build something in one place and then you can paste it somewhere else. I'll show you guys real quick. You guys stay here. I'm gonna make a quick trip here. I already set up to do this. I have this thing I bought from the last home furnishings auction that's sitting here. I already saved the selection. It'll be real quick. Merchant area. All right, so this has 52 different items that have all been nicely put together. I'm gonna go to copy paste. Now, at this spot here, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do copy selection first, just to show you one step here. Down here at the bottom, you've got export and import. All right, these are really cool features here. So if I do export, down here at the bottom is a bunch of like hashed information about locations of objects. But if you scroll up here, this is all a text file, and it starts with like a list of all the items that are going to be used and how many of them there are, right? What you can do is just click in here, just hit Control A and then Control C to copy, and you can paste this whole thing into Notepad and save it as a text file. Now this is an export. So I have like a whole folder full of different things that I've made or the guild has made that I have exports of, and we could just make again if you had the right objects. As long as you have them in your bag and you have this text file, you can recreate any layout that you've made in the past. It's a pretty cool feature. So like if I had copied this, if you have an existing layout, you can go to import and just Control V to paste it in there. And boom, here it is. It's got the same exact information here, these same 52 items, right? Now, if I'm going to copy this to a different house, or I want to pick this up and move this exact layout to another house, I can do cut and copy selection. So it's going to use my selection over here, except it's going to make the copy, but it's also going to pick all the items up and put them in my bag. It's a lot of items, but here it is. I do this all the time for auctions when people want to like recreate the exact thing that they bought. I like paste them into people's houses. They drop all the items, and then I use paste from house items in their house, essentially. Okay. I'm gonna make a quick jump to another house.
How's your character with that much bag space?
Oh, I've got plenty of bag space at the moment. I still have 103 spots free. My bags are pretty empty on this character. I don't even really care. This character is basically just my decorator and crafter. And I specifically emptied my bags out before hosting the class. Sorry for my long load screens. My game isn't on an SSD. If only.
But mine is, and it doesn't seem to make that much difference.
No. I've heard it does make a bit of a difference. You know, the thing that makes the most difference is lowering your graphic settings. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to show you one other neat EHT feature that comes in handy quite a bit. So I use this a lot when I've got a bunch of donated furniture that people have sent me in the mail or something like that, and I want to like dump it in a house. If you don't need to open the housing editor, you just go into your inventory, go to your furnishings tab. Now here's all these things I just picked. I just got cut into my inventory from the other house. There's this place all items. This is actually from EHT. You're gonna hit M, and what it will do. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. It won't take very long to pick them back up. So now all it's doing is it's literally just creating a big pile of everything that was in my bag. If you ever have a bunch of crap that you just need to drop quickly, here's how you do it. And yeah, you don't for this one thing you don't do it in the editor, just from your inventory. EHT can do things in your house without you being in the editor specifically. All right, I'm gonna And once you do this, you'll find everything that you just dropped is now in a selection. I'm just gonna open the There's a lot of stuff. Okay. Let's finish the copy paste. This is where bring to me is going to come in handy here. So I'm going to do copy paste. I'm going to do, well, look, the clipboard will have carried over from the other house. If it didn't, I could have saved an export to use later. I'm just going to do paste from inventory. I'm going to pick current location. Sometimes it will actually put it where you are. You don't want to pick original location because that original location is location information from another house, which will never match up with a different house. So just always pick current location. Oh, it's actually putting it where I am. Amazing.
I have to run, but this class will be on Discord, correct?
So I am recording this. I will at least put up a link in Discord somewhere to wherever I put this video. I think the video will be too large to upload. I'll have to put it on like YouTube or something. But it will be available, so you can catch the end of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks for dropping in. Okay, now I've pasted everything. If it was like invisible or somewhere you couldn't find it, change these items, bring to me. There we go. This is kind of a stupid spot, so I'm going to use this thing I did earlier, the link feature here, and I can just drag this over here. And it just nicely reassembles everything for me. EHT. So nice. Saves so much work. Any
So,
questions?
so,
Any
so
questions?
that brings to me, we'll actually place them perfectly on the ground as well then.
No, so in this, no, like it keeps the same, like if you'll notice this, the ground isn't level here. This was built on a spot that was perfectly level, and this isn't, so you'll notice like the wheels are in the ground here. So like depending
So,
where you,
so I did notice that.
so when you do paste it to another location, you might need to make some adjustments. Like yeah, this is a little in the ground here, like so it doesn't match up exactly. You might need to make some small adjustments, but it is like everything's in the same position it was like before it was moved. All right, I'm gonna hop back on over to Moon Sugar. Got a couple more features. I'm going to skip scenes, the scenes feature of housing tools because it's a bit too complicated and kind of outside the scope of what we're doing here. You can actually use it to do basically stop motion animation. You can create animations in your house, but yeah, you basically have to do it one frame at a time, like moving an object to one position and then recording a frame, basically like stop motion animation. Um, which, yeah, very time consuming and difficult. And honestly, when I've seen other people use it in their houses, it's not very impressive. So, um, I don't know. You can play with it or attempt it if you want. That's under the scenes tab here. We're gonna skip that today. All right. So that basically covers everything in the select. So like I said, selections are the basis of everything that you'll do in EHT. Scent, are you stuck? Scent stuck. Okay. Okay, next up, um, very quickly. So I did undo. We'll very quickly look at tools here because it's pretty simple. Publish house name. This has to do with like Housing Hub. Housing Hub is like the community of decorators who share access to their house with everyone on the server. So that's what. Uh, Actually, this is different. Publish house name just makes the name you give your house public to everybody. Like if you, I haven't renamed this one. It's still called Elsewhere Meadow, but if you gave it some other name, other people would be able to see it. Um, if you do reset all dummies, it basically just picks your dummies up and sets them back down so they have full health again. You can turn on or off everything. I've never seen the report thing. I'm not sure what's up with that exactly. Let's go to builds. Okay, this feature is pretty wild. You guys have stolen all my plates here. I'm gonna have to reclaim my plates. Man, Lucinator was busy over here, huh? Okay. All my floating plants. Okay. Okay, so the builds tab here, basically, first, like everything here, you're going to start with a selection of some number of items. I'm going to use these. I'm going to use these scavenged plates here. I'm just going to use radius select to get them all. Good. So I've got a dozen plates. That'll do. Now, builds, you can use ideally for builds here, you want to use a group of items that are the same. You can use different items, but you might get really strange results if you just used a bunch of different random items in your selection. This is designed to use a bunch of blocks or a bunch of walls or a bunch of plates or something like that. All right, this is pretty wild. All right. It's so basically it can automatically create a bunch of different shapes for you, and then it has all these definitions for the items in it and like how they're spaced, how they're oriented. So let's real quick. I'm just gonna create a circle. Let's try this. Oh, there it is. That's not exactly what I had in mind. Move this down a bit. Okay, so the problem here is the item is they're all oriented at 90 degrees. Let's fix that. See, as you change things, it like automatically adjusts them. You'll see it created this little circular walkway. Now if I change the radius, yeah, okay, that's pretty nice actually. So you can use it to create all kinds of different weird things. Let's see the bridge. Okay. Arched bridge, a cube. Oops. Um, stairs. Stairs is kind of interesting. Now, if you had actual like blocks, you might have just very easily made nice symmetrical stairs for yourself. Um, it's a very unique feature that I'm sure like I actually used it to lay these blocks out. It's got its uses. It does a bunch of very random stuff. You can like let's try wall here. Now the wall looks weird because the orientation's all strange. Let's fix that. Now if you adjust like the item spacing here, like height. There you go. Nice wall made out of plates for you, and it was extremely simple and quick. This has all the same like controls that you've got, including it's automatically will have everything linked, so you can just like click and drag and move things around. You also have some of the arrange tools in terms of like you can bring them to where you are, or do some like basic alignments, but not everything. There's one option up here, auto build. So if you turn off auto build, you can adjust these parameters and it won't like dynamically change all the objects as you're doing it. And then you can also set build here. So you like set a marker where you are, and that's where it's going to start doing its build. I think if I go here, it's going to automatically, yep. And it got me stuck in the wall. Oh, good time to show off another housing feature. H to go to entrance. So while I'm running back here, you can also load and save these. So if you've got like a particular, you can save the current build. Like if you've got a particular set of dimensions and orientation, all these things that you really like, you can save it and then load it and use it again later. Any questions about builds? This is interesting, but only has marginal use in my opinion. We only have a couple more things to go through here. Like I said, scenes is for animations. You can do a bunch of crazy stuff with it. I won't get into it here. I'm not super familiar with it. It's very difficult to use. Let's quickly use trigger. We'll go to triggers here. Triggers are very interesting. So one thing to note, triggers will only work when you're in your house. Okay, so you need to be there with EHT for these triggers to work. Like if someone visited your house without you there, like nothing's gonna happen. There won't be any triggers of any kind. So let's go through making a quick one. So basically, the triggers are like if a certain condition is met, then these specific things happen. So first, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a trigger that makes this switch activate these braziers, right? And I've done this in some of my houses, like I have switches that turn my forges on and off. This is a very basic thing you can do with triggers. All right, so first you need a selection that you can refer to that has all your lights that you want to operate on. Whoops. Okay, and now I'm just gonna save this. Okay, now if we go back to triggers here, I'm gonna call this lights on. Now there are a couple different options here actually for what your conditions are, like have an action happen if it's daytime or it's nighttime, or if a guest arrives or departs, or if a specific phrase is used. You can also do by a particular emote, or if someone enters a specific location. We'll try that one in a second. Right now we're just going to use if a switch or a light or a switch is in a specific state. Right under that you'll see select an item. I'm going to pick that. Now it just wants you to click the item that's your switch, and in this case it's the alien switch. And when the switch is on, okay, then you can add an additional end criteria, but we're not. If the switch is on and it's daytime or it's nighttime, but we're not going to do that right now. Then the items in a save selection, I'm going to pick those braziers, will be on. And then you can also, there are lots of objects that have additional states beyond just on and off, like they have other settings of on, and you could control those too if you wanted to. Right now, that's basically all we need. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. Lights on. Now I'm going to make another one. That's lights off. And change it so that when the switch is off, then the lights are off. And I'm going to save that too. Okay, now if I exit the editor and I use this switch, you'll see the trigger cue on the left side of the screen. All right, the lights were already on. Let's find out. You see the lights go out. Turn them back on with the switch. And a basic light switch going on there. You can do lots of different things with that. It's basically you can use that to control anything that's got on and off states. Any questions about that? We'll do one other one here. Let's try. I'm just going to move this switch for a second. Okay, instead of a specific state, let's try someone in a specific location. All right. I'm going to make it so if I walk into the middle of the lights, they're going to turn on. You can click use current location. All right, you'll see, oh, it shows the area that you have to walk into to trigger this thing happening. Criteria is currently met. I'm going to walk out. There we go. And then I'm going to set braziers to be on. And save. And now I'm going to do off. No one in specified location. And off. And I'm going to save. You'll see it's already updating, right? Now if I exit the editor and I walk into this area, and the braziers turn on. If I leave, they just turn off. You can see you
Can you do that with explosives?
What's that?
Can you do that with explosives so you blow your friends up?
So I did go into someone's house that had like traps in it, like they built an arena. So if you walked into it like a certain place, like yeah, it had like one of those. It didn't actually hurt or whatever, but it had one of those like fire spitting heads that you can get. It's like an achievement furnishing that would like go off if you walked into a certain area, like a fire trap, you know?
Oh, I'll say it didn't do any damage though, no.
No, it didn't do any damage. Unfortunately, you can't kill your friends in your houses except by getting them to fall to their deaths. But you could do some
Yeah,
You could do some
you did that
interesting
to me
stuff.
once. You got me to jump off the top of Alanor, didn't you? Out top of Physic Towers, I think it was.
That might have been Zeebs. What's that, Antigone? Can you know some way to kill your friends in your house? That one's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to come up with some uses for this. Death chickens. Interesting. But anyway, there are some other conditions here. You can have like conditional lighting if it's daytime or nighttime. Again, those things will only trigger if you're in the house. Yeah, there's some other things in here. But yeah, this is one of those use your imagination kind of things. Any questions about triggers?
When I went to Crash's one, I'm sure that there's a little book full of me around which I had to sign.
Oh yeah, that's the guest book. That's like a feature of EHT and the Housing Hub. So I didn't cover the Housing Hub. Let me bring that up real quick. So that basically covers everything in tools that I'm gonna get to. If you got any questions, feel free to jump in. So that's it for tools. There are some other features of EHT here. So let's real quick bring up effects. This is another thing that you might see people use. So first thing about effects is they only work if the person entering your house also has EHT. So they also need to have the add-on installed for them to work. And you have to have shared your saved effects either with your guilds that the other people who are entering your house are in, or with the server at large. And that's like a weird EHT thing. I'm not even sure how that feature works exactly. I think it's done through like some chat messages. But yeah, let me bring effects up. There are all kinds of things you can do here. Like you can set custom persistent weather in your house. Like if I wanted to make it rain. Okay, let's get some heavy rainfall. Okay, so now it's raining. And then let me open the editor here. Best done in the editor. So add will just show all the possible effects. Placed will show ones you've actually added. If you click on one you've added, you get all these adjustments that you can make. For something like rain that happens everywhere, there's not really size or position adjustments. You can, however, change the color. Like you know, for real Prince fans here, let's just get Purple Rain instead. Now we've got Purple Rain. I don't know if it shows up on the stream or not, but it is purple. Once you've made a change, you can hit done. You can copy or you can just delete if you wanted to get rid of one. I'm just going to hit done. We'll leave the rain. Tornado. If you mouse over some things, it'll give you a preview. That's actually kind of cool. That one's not bad. Some of these effects are like, some look better than others. This one could actually be interesting. That would probably look pretty cool, like above if you had the what is it, the house in Merkmeyer, the Argonian one where you can jump into the water funnels to like get into the house. If you like put these above the water funnels, that would look kind of cool. Let me get rid of that. So there are all kinds of different things in here. Different types of animations, like this aether barrier you could put in front of like a doorway or something, might look cool. Same kind of thing on the ground. You can add, is that under weather? Can't remember. Oh yeah, fog. So like this drifting fog is kind of nice for a house. If you wanted to buy fog, it costs like a ton of money in the crown section of the editor, but you can add it with EHT, and it just shows up. I think, oh yeah, just a patch. So you could get it for free with AHT and EHT instead of having to pay for it. I won't go through all these different things. There's a million different things in here, from including just like adding plants. You can add portals. So like you can add portals and then link them to other houses. Like I could create a portal to my Cold Harbor Surreal Estate. And now if I'm out of the editor, if you walk up to it, it would actually travel me there. Like, the Elsewhere house. Kind of. This is to your other houses though. Like, so I could set up a whole bunch of portals to all my decorated houses. If you have EHT, you can just walk up and it'll automatically like start teleporting you to one of my other houses. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you could make like your primary house like a hub house, right? And then just have a bunch of portals to all your other houses, and then have portals back to the hub or whatever. Have this whole like transportation network amongst your houses. I might do that. It's kind of interesting. So now I have some effects. They're really stupid effects, but once you've added some effects to your house, down here you'll see this publish effects button show up here. I think if you, yep. So if you hit this, this is basically shares to the whole server. So anybody on the server who enters your house who has EHT would see these effects. I'm gonna hit cancel. There's another option down in this tab, share. You can do share with guilds. So I'm gonna share with guilds. I'm gonna share with. There we go. Takes approximately 30 seconds. I don't know how it works. If you have EHT, maybe in 30 seconds you will be able to see the rain in the house. see rain and fog and my portal to the Cold Harbor house sitting here. The guest book. All right, I don't think I can do the guest book because I don't have the. I do have it turned on. Okay. I've never been clear about how to lay down the guest book. I think it's in here amongst effects somewhere. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, there is a guest book feature. Let me open the housing hub. Okay, so this has a couple of cool features. One is you can go to open houses here, and this is like you can pick a particular. Oh, I thought you could pick a particular house in here. Maybe you can. So these are all public houses that people have published, and there's lots of cool ones. If you want any ideas, like these are basically people showing off their really cool houses. Once you can also publish your house if you wanted to. There is a way to do that in here somewhere. Also, it'll show all of your houses that you own. Any houses you visited recently. Also, you can set houses that you visit as your favorites and keep a list of those too, which is really cool houses that you liked. Another cool feature is I like this one, favorite or jump to, right? So I could type in, for example, I could type in Antigone's name here, and then I could jump to any house that you own if you have it and it's open, without having to travel to you or have it be your primary or any of those things. You can, if you just know someone has a house, you can just jump to it. It's pretty useful. Let's see. Okay, so if you had dropped the yeah, I could jump to your Sweetwater if I wanted to. Yep, I'd just pick that one. Sweetwater Cascades. Still, there it is. And then if I hit visit, I'd just start jumping to it. If you did set out the guest book, when people come in, if they also have EHT and the Housing Hub installed, they can sign your guest book and leave comments on your house, which I've seen lots of people do. I've never set it up myself though. I should have done that so I could like at least explain how that works. But sorry, that's one thing I missed was the Housing Hub part of this. I think that's basically it for EHT. See if I missed anything else here. I don't think I did. No. So real briefly, the only other add-ons I just wanted to show you that are useful for housing was one was the furniture catalog, which I already mentioned, which is pretty useful. Shows you basically every furnishing in the game except for like the very latest things that have been added. It shows you their sources for almost all of them, like who sells them, where can you get them, how much do they cost, what's the recipe. It keeps track of all the things that you can craft yourself, which is nice. Like, and has these nice filters, so you can look at, show me just craftable things, or show me just craftable things that I know, for example. Pretty nice. Then you can also like search by, like, if I only wanted to see, show me only craftable things that are legendary I can make. It's got nice filters. If you're searching for things you don't know, pick unknown. You can do all items, and then here's like furnishing plans I still don't know yet. If you wanted to hunt them down, it's pretty useful. You can also just see if, like, say you wanted to make something. Caps locks. Let me just. Huh? Oh, I know all. Let me just I wanted to make this levitating bed, but I don't know where to make it at. If you mouse over it, you can see down at the bottom it says clothing, so you can see which station you need to go to make it before, like, rather than just like blindly looking around at different stations trying to figure out where you need to go to make what. Which reminds me, let me run over to my stations real quick. There's another add-on I like. It's called Home Hearth Filter, or Hearth Home Filter. Hold on, let me double check. It's one or the other. Here it is, Hearth Home Filter. Don't turn it off. So if you go to a station, you go to furnishings and you pick any particular furnishing. I was gonna make this. It gives you this nice. Well, okay. Actually, I think EHT gives you this, right? Hearth Home Filter basically gives you a search bar in your furnishings, so you can just type any particular thing in here. What is okay. Like if you were looking for a particular thing, it gives you search results, which is really, really handy. Gotta say. If I wanted to make apparatus or something like that. Oh, there they are. And I'm pretty sure it's EHT that adds this information, so you can see the craft costs. Like for instance, I can see it's probably not. I can see actually alchemical apparatus actually sells for more than the value of the materials, which is pretty rare. This will help you know whether or not you should actually craft things or just go try to buy them. Some things are much cheaper to buy than to craft. That's good to know. One last thing is magic carpet, which is pretty nice. Once you install magic carpet, you'll get this little icon down here. When you're in your house, it'll show up. You can click it. It has all kinds of different settings here, like different items. I'm just going to use this Merkmeyer achievement item. It's just this big flat stone thing. So I'm gonna hit start. There are all kinds of different things you can fly around on. A radish, apparently. Some easier to come by than others. So, just hit start. Okay, now if I jump, I'm going up. You can also bind keys. So, okay, now I'm running up, or you can bind a key to down, so you move down, and it's basically like movable scaffolding, right? So if you were building up into the air, you don't have to build scaffolding. You can just get way up, get as high into the air as you want, basically to the max, whatever the height. You can find out what the height of your house is. This one lets you go super high. And then if you just want to end it, you can just hit off. Now, it prevents, so magic carpet when you're in your house will also prevent you from dying from falling. So you'll notice when I just let go, yeah, it will show you the limits. You can find out how high you can build, or like how far outside of the bounds you can get, things like that. It also saves you from falling death. So you'll notice when I let go, I didn't fall and die. I just went back to the entrance. It's kind of nice. Let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting. Oh, basic thing that is just generally useful, but also useful for housing is inventory insight. Like, say you were looking for a furnishing and you didn't know what house you had left it in. Once you go to a house, it'll index all your furnishings in it, so I can just pick all here. And then if I was looking for, oh, where did I leave my mammoth skull? Oh, and you mouse over and it'll say, oh, I've got one in my antiquarians, one in Humble Mud, and one in Autumn's Gate. You know, it'll show you exactly where any furnishing you're looking for is. Very, very helpful if you have lots of storage houses and stuff like that. Trying to think. Oh, there's one more little trick I think I was going to show here that is useful. Okay, say you had a shelf and you were placing things on the shelf, right? There's this. So a lot of the time when you are putting things on a shelf, what will happen is once you place it on the shelf, you won't be able to click it again to move it. This happens with all kinds of shelves. You'll only be able to click the shelf, right? So one thing is before you place things on the shelf, I like to just stick them floating in front of the shelf a little. Then you can use the precision editor and move them into position on the shelf. And then if if it's too far in one way, you can look, is it sticking out the back? Is it, is it in the spot I want it in, before it basically becomes unmovable again because it's in the shelf. This particular shelf is actually nice and lets you pick things that are still on it. This Deadlands bookshelf is doesn't have that problem like every other shelf does. Let me stick another couple random things on here. Okay, so now say you did have a bookshelf and you wanted to move it somewhere else and keep everything on it, but you can't make a group of it because you just can't manage to click the things in it. You can instead just use EHT and just clear your selection and just use radius. Hit G on the shelf, do a radius around the shelf. Whoops. Now I've got everything, and then if you wanted to move, just make sure you have the link on. You can just drag the bookshelf anywhere you want, and everything will follow with it. Or not. Okay, if that happens where it does that, just hit undo, and then close the housing editor and reopen it, and now when you drag again, it will work. Sometimes it's like it forgets. What the heck? Okay, never mind. It just hates me right now, apparently.
After today, it'll always work every time.
Well,
It's
so
just
I've
right
seen it.
now.
I've seen it not work like that sometimes before, but there it goes. I don't know. Sometimes it decides it just doesn't want to work, and then you close the housing editor and open it back up again, and it works just fine. Or not. It's being very weird right now. It's quite an EHT advertisement I'm given. Okay. I think I'll wrap it up here for now. It has been a couple of hours, but any questions about literally any housing related topic? Go ahead and shoot if you've got any.
Okay, the first thing you were discussing. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I learned some things.
Well, I hope so. I'll see if I can put this thing up on YouTube later.
Actually, I learned a lot, especially at the HT. Never even realized.
Yeah, I hadn't really messed with it before, so that was a lot of good information.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If you come up with any questions, feel free to hit me up. I will see if I can get this thing on YouTube for other people later. And, thanks for coming.
That's
Yeah, it
brilliant.
was
Thanks
good.
very
Thank
much,
you.
Rudolph.
Thanks for doing it.